And good afternoon, Roger Hill of Wuthering Heights, VELCO Weather Hazards Forecaster. We're looking at the big swirl here. This is the main area of low pressure that's tracked across the country. It has a historical aspect to this winter storm and producing extreme winter weather. It has a frontal boundary that stretches way out ahead of it and swirling out ahead of it. And here we're going to see an area of low pressure that's going to develop and work off of Long Island, eventually work into the Gulf of Maine, and then pull east south of Nova Scotia. All of that said, we're going to see some wet snow arrive and push into the region for Thursday night. This will continue, it looks like, into the day on Friday as well as Friday night. And some pulses of upticks of moderate bursts of snow in between at times when things will kind of lull out. It's a little bit of a tricky forecast. See the latest heads up and the latest details on that. In the meantime, this particular weather system will eventually work on out of the region along about Saturday evening. Most of the heavy action will probably be before roughly about early afternoon or midday on Saturday, with some wet snow loading possibilities for sure. You can see there's some pretty good easterly wind gusts around 30 knots in some locations. That's kind of working in on the backside, and a low-level jet will develop once this area of low pressure circulates some low-level easterly winds, and that's going to interact, of course, with the Berkshires and mainly the southern Green Mountains, affecting mainly Bennington County. So we do also have some gradient winds involved out of the east-northeast. But the main event is going to be the marginally warm temperatures in the state of Vermont, and also this precipitation rolling northeast. European on the left, GFS on the right. This is our precipitation maker. This is the area of low pressure that's going to track basically a little bit north of the Delmarva, and then track up New Jersey, and then off the coast of Montauk, and then eventually into the Gulf of Maine. So watching that, there's our area of low pressure. Snow is beginning to ride. This is valid about 1 o'clock in the morning on Friday, just getting into Bennington and Windham counties. And that snow is going to pick up during the overnight period. This is valid about 7 o'clock in the morning. And it gets into about the Barry-Montpelier area, maybe a little bit to the north and east. You can see very similar conditions here with the GFS, and the whole system itself is going to slide off to the east. It's not a huge storm, if you note. It's not a very big, intense system. However, it throws a lot of moisture at us from this being pulled out of the Gulf, and the combination of that and then coming easterly off the Atlantic Ocean is really going to interact with the mountainous terrain. And of course, with marginal temperatures, wet snow loading issues, elevation, a huge player. Do see the latest heads up for more information on that. Taking this a little bit further along, we're looking at, again, multiple rounds of a little bit of bursts of moderate snow. Never comes down incredibly heavy due to the mesoscale banding from what I've seen, but needless to say, enough that it's going to be coming down moderately at times and adding up that snowfall. And again, wet heavy snow is going to cause impacts for utilities. So heads up on that. Now this system finally lifts to the north in Canada. This is valid at about 15Z. That's about 10 o'clock in the morning. So things do improve eventually once we get into especially Saturday evening. And by basically Sunday morning, this is going to be lifted to the north, and just a few lake effect snow showers. You can see those both on the GFS as well as the European, as this area of low pressure kind of lollygags and kind of stretches and kind of lobes back to the north and west. I also want to call attention, there's one little kind of a Alberta Clipper system that's going to zip just about due west to east right from the Great Lakes, picks up a little bit of moisture. Again, it's going to throw us at some minor snow showers and flurries at us from time to time with a little tiny bits of accumulation, nothing major. Eventually, as we get into the late part of the week, we have this puppy forming here. And this is a very cold, anomalously cold air mass that's going to be developing. It basically came in over Siberia, cross-polar into the north slope of Alaska. It's going to be tracking generally east of the continental divide and continuing through the plains and eventually end up all the way to Florida. So as we watch the progress, you can see how that basically spins up another area of low pressure, a pretty strong one at that, and some sort of subtropical low potentially. A lot of moisture, and look at the pressure gradient there, 973 hectopascals. That is a significantly cold as well as a significantly intense area of low pressure. And the timing for this would be basically just prior to the Christmas holiday. So heads up, we do have another major system in the pipe. Looking at the GFS ensemble centered on Montpelier, Vermont, what we can see here is this is not a giant system with a big heavy spike or anything, but it's sort of an elongated system. Once it starts basically overnight tonight, we're looking at that continuing into all day Friday, Friday night, as well as into the day on Saturday, finally winding down Saturday night and a little bit into Sunday. Now, a little bit of lake effect, snow showers and flurries, basically minor accumulations. But look at this, we do have one more outlier system, and that's potentially, the models are trying to key off that bigger system that's in the future, well around the corner prior to the Christmas holiday. Looking at the total amount of QPF, running about 0.8 or so. Notice that it's a relatively gradual pickup in moisture. Now, precipitable water is nothing real significant here, only around 0.45 to 0.5 of an inch. It's just that this weather system is going to last over us for quite a long time. So consequently, looking at total snowfall, looks like this. This is the latest model run. And you see that we're going to pick up somewhere between about 6 and maybe 9 inches, and that seems to be pretty close to what the European is showing as well. 850 temperatures are also well below the 0-degree isotherm. Looking at the next 7 days of total precipitation, accumulated precipitation, we got about 1.5 inches in the brown here, about 1 inch in the blue. And down in the southern parts of New England and southern Vermont, we're looking at anywhere from about 1.5 to 2 inch amounts with this storm system. And that's melted precip. And looking at the 2-meter temperature anomalies, above normal, this is a little bit of that colder air that's going to be dragged south and across the pole and into the north slope of Canada and eventually all the way to Florida. Not there yet. We'll be watching it. This is prior to Christmas. And looking at the weighted temperatures for the next 5 days of meteorological output statistics, or MOS, you can see this is some mighty cold air up here. And for us, we're looking at temperatures running about 3 degrees above normal weighted for the next 5 days. What about 3 days later? Well, it looks like this. Still near normal, but much of the country is going to see a pretty major Arctic outbreak. It's just in the beginning stages as we see it here over the next 3 to 7 days. For us, closer to seasonal norms and basically weighted just a little bit above normal toward the Canadian Maritimes in that blocking area of higher pressure, which is kind of controlling a lot of this. That's it from here. Roger Hill, Wuthering Heights. Thanks for watching.